Why did he choose the fridge?
Audio spiked. That was
The audio definitely got the truck horn, but I don't think it got
but I don't know about that was funny.
Roll the intro.
Evening, officer. Is something wrong?
Just keep your hands where I can see them. Routine traffic stop. We got reports of someone driving under the influence. You know anything about that?
No, I'm only under one influence.
What's that?
The influence of Jesus.
It's time for Under the Influence.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Under the Influence. I'm one of your 4 co-hosts, Jude Crane, joined of course by my brother.
Jerry Crane.
And my brother in Christ.
Byron Thiessen.
And my brother in Christ.
Levi Thiessen.
Welcome back.
I was entirely spaced out, and I was like, I was thinking about doing a bit, and all I was thinking about in my head was like, I could do this, and I should do this. But if I do it, it's too late now. I should have started the episode this way. And I was thinking, like, that thought was just going through my head constantly,
Right.
and then I realized he's pointing at me.
Oh, yeah.
And then the audio of what had happened caught up.
What was your bid idea?
Well, I'm not going to spoil it.
Of course.
I'll
We'll
wait
do it
till the
later.
future. Which, the future episodes will probably be guest episodes, so now that poor guest is going to have to experience what I was going to do.
All future episodes are going to be guest episodes. All right,
100%.
you heard it here first.
The bit of 87.
I think
Jerry's bit
someday-
is so bad that the
Jerry's
guest
bit
ends up
is-
like being burned all over their body. 3rd-degree burns.
Like Matt, or not Matt.
Yeah, like we burned Matt that one time.
Like we burned
Cephas.
Matt that
like
one
Matt's
time.
D&D character.
Yes.
Matt is
But
burned
burned.
all over his body.
Yeah, that's why he's
That's
not
why
been
he's
on.
never done a video.
That's why he's in the
episode.
chair.
He's only been audio.
Because he can't move his legs.
Huh?
That's why Matt's the guy in the
Can't
chair.
move
Because he
his
can't move his
legs.
legs.
He's not the guy in the chair.
That's right.
Yeah, we can stop.
Wow. Months after Matt's not been here anymore. I'm gonna have to cut that.
That's right. It's true.
All right, we're back. Sorry, that little bit went to Patreon, everybody.
You just didn't get the intro of the podcast.
The entire intro to the podcast goes to Patreon, and it just starts with "We're back."
We start doing that. All of our Patreon episodes are just the intros to other episodes.
That'd be
so
nice.
it's like we're holding hostage. So people are like, I don't even know what's going on.
I'm
like,
so
You cut it
confused.
all the way up to the point where we start discussion, and the context of a discussion, you cut that.
Yeah, we actually cut out all our discussions and we timestamped them on
entire
YouTube.
preamble
and the first
of every
3 minutes of
episode.
each discussion is reserved for Patreon.
That's
so
smart.
if you want to understand it.
If
That's
you
a
want
really
context,
Like really predatory
That's paywall.
paywall.
It's good.
Like
yeah,
It's good.
it's kind of
it's
smart.
gatekeeping our community.
It is actually like gatekeeping. Context.
We should stop doing it and then hide all the good like biblical discussions behind paywall. And
Like
then-
yeah, what are those things called?
Were you like indulgences?
Indulgences.
That's right. Yeah. If you want to hear our very educated take on it, you can pay for it. Yeah.
Our indulgences.
Right.
Check it out only on Patreon.
Under the influence indulgences.
Isn't
Would you
it
like to learn how to live your life better, more aligned to Christ? Well, pay us. Indulgences.
Isn't it an interesting name, indulgence?
It's
Yeah.
an interesting
That is
choice
such
of
a
word.
weird name.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from.
I'm sure there's like a cultural reason more so since
Yeah.
it was so long ago. But
That
it'd be
would
really
be-
funny if it wasn't.
That would be an interesting thing to find out and like do a deep dive on why they were called indulgences. I think it's just
Look
like,
it up.
I have
Oh,
to,
you don't have the keyboard.
I have to stretch.
Here,
Jude.
you keep going. You keep talking about that. I'm gonna. Man,
So,
I wish we had someone who could just.
self-indulgence. Byron, as an expert, what do you have to say?
About self-indulgence.
Just kidding. That's a nice watch, though.
I know.
Did you just get that?
I did.
Was that a self-indulgence?
Yes and no. It's for school.
Nice.
I have to have a watch for school and do like timing and stuff because we have a lot of timing stuff in PT school. Fun fact: I started PT school yesterday.
For you, it was like 3
For
weeks.
time
For you,
of
it's
recording.
like 2 weeks ago, maybe 5 months ago. Who knows?
Certainly not that long
Well, they may be watching it 5 months from now.
Exactly.
My mistake.
For those,
You
for that person, for
dummy.
you, right there, watching 5 months back.
Somebody's
Talking to
gonna
you.
5 months
in 5
back.
months.
Yeah.
5 months ago, they were watching
From
this
us
episode.
today,
Yeah,
yeah.
from
So
us
you were saying.
at time of recording.
Anyway, school we have a lot of things that we do timing on. So like walk tests, sit tests, those kind of things. And so you
When
have to
class starts.
How fast can you sit down?
So it's
It
called
took me 5 seconds to sit down today.
So
All right, it took the class 5 minutes to actually get here.
pretty much. It is. So there's a couple tests. Those are the ones that I ran when I was in aid. Are like 5-minute sit to stands or 5-second sit to stands. So you have this. How many sit to stands can you do in 5?
Oh.
Sorry, hold on. Rework that back. 5 times sit to stands. So how many times? How long does it take you to do 5 stand up sit downs?
Oh. Okay.
So I say go. Timer starts. You stand up. You sit down. You stand up.
That sounds like it would look
You sit
violent.
down.
are you allowed to do it like violently fast? or is it
As
supposed
fast
to
as
be-
you physically can, as long as your butt touches the seat and you stand with
I'm gonna hurt
full
myself.
legs.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? We'll time it now. And then there's the 30-second sit to stand, and it's how many sit to stands can you do in 30 seconds?
Okay.
And so
Like one
Sure.
of them is a sprint and the other's just a marathon.
yes, so they usually use geriatric patients because it's a strength training.
Jerry,
it's a
you've been
not
doing these without us?
geriatrics.
Jerry addict. He meant
Yep,
to
Jerry
Jerry
addicts.
addicts.
Perfect.
Jerry Addicts Anonymous.
It's a strength and endurance tests.
Yeah.
And then we also do like a 2-minute or a 6-minute walk test. And the goal is to see how far you can progress back and forth or how many laps you can do in our gym. But how far can you walk in 2 to 6 minutes, depending on which time it is. And the reason for that is that shows the first lap, you time that one just to see what the time is. And then you time all the way through to the 2 minutes. And you can see if there's a degradation of like their endurance is dropping off. But if you can't do 240 feet in 2 minutes, you are considered a high fall risk or something like that. There's like cutoffs, like
A
if you
flight
can't-
risk.
kind of like
The
flight
flight
risk.
risk. You
Like-
cannot post bail
Because you can't move fast enough.
because
Exactly.
you can't move fast.
Yeah, can't run away fast enough, but you just have to do that. So I got to watch for that. But
okay,
I got
cool.
from a coworker who
It's a
had
nice watch.
who actually bought more the newer version of this one because they go hiking, so they're a hiking watch,
Nice.
and they gave it to me.
It
sold it to me
matches
for
your
free.
headphones really
It
well.
does.
I know. I was
thought
like,
that
dude,
was
this
the-
is sweet.
Thought that was the plan.
no, it
You have
wasn't
like,
the
oh,
plan.
if you had like real clean, crisp white sneakers on too, you'd have the full kit.
Yeah,
I do at
be-
home. I didn't
really?
bring
he
them
does
here.
at home.
Yeah, I bought some nice. I bought some.
I mean, the camera can't see.
If you had like cargo
can't see your
shorts that you
kicks
tucked
anyway.
your shirt into and then wore the nice white kicks with the watch and the headphones, you
oh
look.
no.
Or if I
need,
just-
I need
if
a
I also-
plaid.
give you my shirt, you should just wear full white someday,
Full
like a
Holy
boy band.
smokes. I don't know if I can do
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
like a boy band,
Backstreet
just
Boys.
full.
One of them did all white. It was Backstreet Boys.
I think it was Backstreet
Boys to
Boys.
men.
Boys to men.
They were full white. They always wore the white, didn't they?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
They were full white.
No, hang on. They were always wearing. There's somebody
You
back
picked
there.
the one like
Makeup.
It's makeup.
yeah.
Well, I always think when I think boys to men, I think white because they always wore. They always wore full white outfits, didn't they?
Did Boys to Men?
I don't
really
know
wear
if
full white.
If
I
they
think so.
always wore full white. I
don't
know
think
that's
Backstreet
always-
Boys.
we have-
But they did
Our
have
audience
times
says yes.
where
Our
they
resident boys to men fan
Right.
is giving us the thumbs up.
Okay. But yeah, that's why I have the watch.
It's a cool watch. It
that.
looks very durable.
And
does look
it's like it's a nice. It's
Can we
called,
dunk it in water?
yes, you
It
can.
looks like you could, yeah.
You can dunk
It
it
can
in water.
survive you being waterboarded.
Yep.
Nice.
And it has full GPS on it, so I know exactly.
So we can track you.
Sure.
We can
But
track you, but we just can't kill him.
No, you can't track.
We can track him, but we just can't kill it.
You can't track you can't track me on it, but I can go GPS location.
That's what you think.
You can't actually track me on the watch, but I can track you and everyone else. It's an interesting little feature.
It's a reverse GPS lock.
Remember that drink I gave you last week? Yeah, there's a microchip in it.
Tons of little microchips.
Yeah.
I thought you were being serious. I was like, what drink did you give me last week? I thought you were
No.
fully transitioning to a new topic. Like, remember that drink I gave you last week?
Yeah.
And I was like, where is this going?
I have the answer to indulgences.
Oh,
Go,
really?
if you'd like.
dude.
Indulgence.
Comes from
Go
the
for it.
Greek word, either indulgere or indulgere, I don't know, or Latin word, sorry, not Greek.
Yeah, it didn't sound very Greek.
I like Gary.
Gare
Gary?
is probably, yeah, indulgere.
Yeah.
But when they would give out these like relics, it wasn't like information. It was something that would satiate either your soul or the soul of someone who had passed. Right?
Yeah.
they were actually like gold coins, and then there'd be like rosaries and crosses. They were actually chocolate wrapped up in gold foil.
Okay.
No,
just
the
gone.
Latin
Okay, real
word,
history.
the Latin word indulgere or whatever means to be lenient towards
We'll fix that later.
or to forgive, and so it was a satiate that you could purchase. Yeah,
Oh, forgiveness you could
yeah,
purchase.
forgiveness to be lenient with. That's what the word comes from, so that's why it's called indulgence.
Forgiveness to be lenient with.
Forgiveness, comma, to be lenient with. Words have very fluid definitions.
Makes sense.
No,
That's
words
why-
have singular definitions.
They definitely don't.
That's why
Especially
we have a
not
dictionary.
especially not in the Greek situation.
I don't think in any language.
Yeah,
words are pretty
well,
fluid.
I'm sure.
No,
you could-
but like
English
going back to
dictionary.
Greek, we've got 3 different words for love because there's
Right.
3 different definitions because each word
But each one
means an entirely different and very specific and defined thing.
Yeah, but often when you go to define something, there's a lot of results, especially with Greek.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah,
you're defining it
nowadays-
to a different language.
Yeah. The
So
trans-
what is phileo? What is phileo?
It's what you do to a fish. Filet o fish.
Phileo fish.
Yep, that's it.
It's what
The fourth-
It's what McDonald's does to fish.
The fourth type of love.
The,
fourth type of
What you
love.
would do to a fish.
What you would
The
do to
full-
a fish.
Anything you would do to a fish is is the fourth category of love.
Catch and release.
Byron's a very loving person. Catch and release.
Catch and release.
Catch and
you know?
release.
Yeah.
Speaking of fishing, I just went fishing this morning. That's why I was late.
Dude, you just
Oh,
go
that's
all the
why you
time.
And you
gone?
didn't
I was-
invite us.
I was gonna-
just edited the episode where you're like, we should go fishing.
We should.
I want to take all of you fishing.
I
I
desperately
do. I
wanna go
do.
fishing.
I literally got up before the sun rose,
Crack it down.
drove out.
I was
an
going to
hour.
ask you if you
I
wanted
was
to
awake.
carpool here.
Yeah,
I was
figured you
awake
would.
before the sun rose.
I was awake before the sun rose.
Oh my gosh.
We were awake way before you.
Way
We just
before.
hadn't
You
slept
were.
yet.
Yeah, you hadn't slept yet.
Rough spot there, Byron.
I know. I'm pretty
just
much
in
just,
between the peanut calories.
It's great. Just onslaught today.
I was up before you were. And Byron's just halfway through.
I'm gonna go home now.
Where'd you fish?
North of St. Am. But
That's cool.
Did you catch anything?
yes, I
Did
did.
you release anything?
I did. I did release
Did you kill
everything.
anything?
No, but the big fish that I have been hunting all this last month hit my line again.
Wait, the same one?
The same one.
How do you know it's the same?
Because he's the biggest darn fish I've ever seen in this river. And he sits in the exact
Wow.
same spot every single time. He hits the exact same fly.
Nice.
He hits it twice, and then he's done. He'll never hit it again.
He hits it, so like you hook
Twice a
him?
day.
You hook him, yeah. So like, I've never gone day to day, like Monday, Tuesday. I've always gone like Monday, Thursday, or Saturday kind of a thing. So there's days in between. But I hooked him the first day, and he jumped out of the water. I don't know, about like that's about a foot, I'm guessing, 10 inches.
Just
Jumped
about,
out of the water, but he's 18 inches plus when he jumped out. Hooked him. He went phoop, in the air, dove in the water. I reel back on my line, and then the line gets snagged on something. He jumps again, and I just see whoop, and the fly goes flying out of his mouth.
Lame.
That was day one. And then the next time I got him, he does the same thing, jumps out of the water, and as soon as he jumps out of the water, line snaps right then. And I'm like, oh, you
This
sucker.
is your white whale.
This is my
Yeah.
white whale. And so today, I hooked him again. He went and he breached, so like just saw the back of him. And I knew it was huge.
You're like, oh, it's a monster.
Yeah, it's a monster. It was like this
river
boom,
monster.
fly. I go set the
monster.
hook,
Monsters.
and I feel this tug, and I'm like, oh, it's him. And I try to reel. As soon as I try to pull up, it goes slack, and the fly goes whee, flying over my head. And I'm like, dang it.
Are you going with somebody or are you just by yourself?
The first time, or I've
Has
gone by
anybody
myself,
witnessed this
and I
fish?
have gone with Aid. Aid saw it.
Yeah.
Aid has
So
verified.
do you guys have a name for it?
No, we don't have a name yet.
Oh man.
You gotta name it.
What's the captain from Moby Dick?
Huh?
What's the captain from Moby Dick? The guy's hunting.
Yeah, Ahab.
I was gonna call him Timothy.
Captain
Timothy's a
Moab,
good name.
the mother of all bombs. That's how you can catch a whale.
Yeah, if you take us fishing,
That is the best way
we can
to
catch
catch
a
fish.
fish.
Moab.
To just drop them. Moab.
I can't get the white whale. There he is. Boom.
I'm gonna call up my buddy Oppenheimer.
We've got some fireworks, some pretty, intense ones left over. We just
I think that's
Yeah.
illegal.
You said San
That is
Am?
very
It's a
illegal.
very, very notoriously good place for fireworks.
Yeah.
Oops,
I've
I
lived in
dropped
Oregon.
mine into the water.
That wouldn't be as
I
bad
don't,
as.
I don't want to kill him. I just want to get a stinking photo
Yeah,
of him.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Are you
just
guys
to prove it?
So you guys,
That's
you said
much
you're
more
catching
cool.
and releasing. You guys don't catch to keep or whatever.
Oh, we can't on this river.
You can't. Okay, I don't know how any of that works.
You can on this river if it's a hatchery fish above. If it's a hatchery fish bigger than 8 inches but smaller than 16 inches, because of how the rules and regs are for
Right.
what my license is.
How are the hatchery
Gotcha.
fish marked?
So
They have a certain fin cut off.
they have a fin cut off. So they have a dorsal fin and then they have a adipose,
Vestigial
an
too.
adipose fin, fat fin, and they cut the fat fin.
Cover your eyes and ears.
Cover your eyes.
Why did he choose the fridge?
The audio definitely got the truck horn, but I don't think it got
don't know about.
That was funny. Well, he had something to say about it, I guess. Why is it called fridging?
That's insane. That's insanely dark for just throw somebody's body in the fridge.
I've referenced or I've used that phrase a lot, and you just never knew what I meant.
I guess.
I mean, you can pick up on things without
Yeah.
knowing that Green Lantern's girlfriend was in a fridge. Like,
Fair enough.
I
pick up on
just by
things
fridging, I was like, oh, they get rid of a character. I didn't know it was specifically female.
Yeah. Usually it's when you.
At least it's not the
kill
color
off-
yellow, you know.
Usually when you kill off what?
Green Lantern's biggest weakness.
Oh, the color yellow. Yeah, the poor guy.
She was in a yellow dress.
So he was afraid.
I can't get her out of the fridge.
Isn't yellow fear?
Yeah, but also yellow is fear, orange is greed.
Yellow
red
is
is
fear
wrath.
because that's the one that Batman
Red
gets.
is
Wrath?
Red is like
Rage.
Yeah, rage.
I know black is death.
Black is death.
Dude, black is my favorite lantern. Dude, it's
That's
so
surprising.
What?
Wait, so do they use black lights? Like,
Yeah,
No,
the Black Lanterns are just like
it's
I mean,
it's a
Black
group from
Lanterns,
Gresham that goes
it's
to raves all the
literally
time.
like
It's
they
actually like-
they just give rings to the dead.
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
come back, dude.
The rings reanimate the dead people, but they're evil.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
But they're bad.
They're bad.
bad.
They want to
story-
kill everybody.
Yeah, because
They're bad.
that's. I mean, they want to make the world like
that was weird.
That's true.
I thought the bird was coming in that window.
too.
I was like,
Straight
dude,
ahead of
there's
us
a
on the
bird
other
in.
side of the other side of the room. It looked like the bird flew in, but I was like, my mind knew that was impossible.
Was it the bluebird?
And there was just a black, like
a black shadow
Really
bird.
pretty
but
bluebird.
a shadow bird.
Shadow bird.
Okay, I talked to Levi about this a little bit yesterday, but
What?
I've been editing the episodes from like a little while ago, and I just edited the episode with Aid that you guys did, and you guys talked a bunch about fishing. It was super interesting, but there's something that really stuck out to me,
Oh boy.
and as someone who's now missed, I think that's the second episode I've missed.
Yeah.
I think it was like a third or fourth episode you've missed.
I don't think so.
I don't think you've been here for the majority of the episodes we've recorded.
No, that's
well,
true.
If you don't count those ones though, I've only missed 2.
Good point.
And so the 2 that I've missed, one of them was you guys without me, right? And I came back after that and I was editing it. And I was like, man, you guys were like, I mean, it was funny. There was like a lot of funny stuff, but also like just really brutal, just mean, like just pooping on Jerry all the time, convincing people to like trying to stir up the whole community against me. But it was funny. And then what? Then this most recent one that Levi and I aren't on, I'm editing it, and so it takes a little longer because I really have to listen to the whole thing to make sure there's nothing that needs to be cut out or added or anything like that. Mainly to see if like Tim needs to add anything in because I'm doing just the audio. And as I was going through, you guys were really nice to me, and so I'm sitting there like, man, and it doesn't feel like you're faking. I mean, you're joking. Most of it's joking like Jerry, we love you so much, Jerry. Could you make sure you do this? Oh, Jerry, we just love you. But also like just making seemingly candid remarks that were just very kind. And I was just like, man, this is nice. Like last time I went through this and I just kept being like, geez, Louise, oh my goodness. But this time I was just smiling. And I realized Levi wasn't on. The only difference was that in the other one. The
No,
other
I
one.
think
There's
The
an
other one I wasn't on.
there's an instigator here.
Also, to be fair, you guys had a guest on, which
Right.
might make you want to be a little nicer. But, you know, I was like, man, something's just different. Maybe. Oh, Levi was also gone.
I think the kids just learned. I think if Levi was back on, it'd be great.
The kids just
I think
learned.
the kids just learned.
Dude, you guys can. The things I'm referring to in that other episode didn't bother me.
Right, but isn't it better to not just not bother you, but to make you feel good because we were kind to
But
you?
it's also funny.
All right, we'll go back to pooping on
I think
Jerry.
it's better to
Poop it on Jerry days. Okay.
No, it did make me feel nice. You guys were like, you're like, ew. You guys were like, I don't know, something happened, and you're like, this is why we need Jerry. Like, Jerry, we miss you.
Yeah,
You know?
an integral part of the podcast.
And
Cut
then
that
I
out,
was
though.
just,
I don't want to show my tears.
I thought we were going to cut that out.
I
That's
can
weird.
only cut out audio.
Oh.
Well,
I can only cut out audio.
I can't cut out your tears.
Tim, don't show my tears.
Well, this is well past.
I could
that's
cut
come
out your tear
Oh
glands.
no.
Yeah,
But that's just for the future.
You're a budding physical therapist. You could probably cut out your own tear glands, tear ducts. Or whatever.
That is what
Tear
physical
glands.
therapy entails.
That's
mostly.
definitely what physical
Surgery,
therapy
right?
is.
Surgery.
Yeah.
microsurgery.
We do open heart and tear ducts. That's all we can do.
My leg is really acting up.
I'm sorry, I can't do
Probably going to have to cut out your eyes.
I'm gonna cut out your eyes.
Oh no, we have a problem. Their heart is failing. Okay, I can do this. Oh no, their tear ducts are failing. I can do this. Their nose is bleeding. I can't touch that.
Yeah.
No.
Hi,
it's not
I'm
you.
a surgeon. What kind of surgeon are you? Open heart and tear ducts.
That's it.
I am a
A
surgeon.
surgeon.
I don't need open heart. I just need areas around my heart. I'm sorry.
Shoot. I replaced his heart with his tear ducts.
Well, that's better than replacing your tear ducts with hearts.
his heart is just crying and his eyes are just goo 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 goo. And
Why is
blood,
the world shaking?
just crying blood?
No, but that episode was good. I enjoyed it. You know, it's
Abe was a
fun
lot
to-
of fun. I think he was a great guest.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet.
He was funny,
good.
and I really enjoyed towards the end when you're like, okay, telling probably so it's when the episode has easily the most traction in my opinion. Like it's the most interesting, the most fun. You guys are all enjoying conversation together and really joking around, and you're telling that story about him fishing in his underwear.
Yeah.
And as you're telling the story,
You have to watch the episode.
in the middle of that story, you hear beep 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 beep, and you're like, "Oh, the camera died." And then you
Is
guys
that the
go,
story?
and then you guys go, "Well, we should finish the story," which I agree with. You know, you should, because it would be dumb to just stop right there. It was a great part. And so Byron, well, good job. You're like, "We'll just finish this. It'll just be in black and white," or whatever you said.
In black and
And
white.
yeah,
the
black and
color
white,
battery
yeah.
died
But
out.
You're like, we'll just finish this in black and white. You kept saying in black and white, which I thought was funny. But like, you're just like, we'll finish it, and then the editing can figure it out, which is the best way to go about it. And you're like, we'll finish the story, wrap it up. And Jude goes, yeah, finish the story real quick. We'll wrap it up. But then you guys talk for like 12 more minutes.
Oh yeah.
Not just the story. You finish the story in like 2.5. And then with no camera, instead of like, all right, let's wrap this up, you record another like 8 to 10 minutes of content.
Oh, that was intentional completely.
Yeah.
I thought we may have not communicated it well. We were going to do we were really trying to make a full episode. We just
Okay.
weren't going to worry about it because you'd had like 2 seasons without video.
You
What's
had
another 20
just
minutes?
said, at some point, like when he says, I'll finish the story, you're like, finish the story, then we'll wrap it up.
Great.
And so then it's like, I'm sitting here like, oh, good. But then I look at the timestamp, I'm
like 20 more
maybe they
minutes.
accidentally left the recording going. And then no, there's just more discussion that I want to include. So it means the last 10 or 15 minutes,
Just
whatever.
a picture
It's just
of
gonna be
Aid in
a-
his underwear.
It's going to be a
not allowed to
crayon
use that. I
drawn
wouldn't do that.
image of technical difficulties, and then like
No.
us as crew.
I think it'd
crayon
be
drawn.
really funny
It's just
if-
like.
I think it'd be really funny if Tim chooses a few funny and compromising stills from that episode, like one where Jude's like, and one where Byron's kind of talking, one where Aid, and so as it changes the person talking, it just flips back and forth between
That's
those stills.
exactly what I was going to say.
That's the best way to do it. Actually.
I was literally going to
just
say
for
find
Tim,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
it's
Tim.
more work than typical. He's gonna have to
find
flip.
2 frames where each of us are talking, and
Yeah.
then anytime one of us is talking, you just
It's
go.
just like-
burp, 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 and
So it just looks like this weird.
As a picture of an open mouth and closed mouth.
That would be way
It's just
more
MS
work.
Paint, a little black circle going.
Or you just like cut the thing in half. So it's
Yeah.
just like
Cut the whole screen.
No, just the mouth.
just the image.
the
like you just
image,
slot the
so
image.
that
No,
like
cut the
right
whole
across
picture,
the mouth.
so the picture is like.
Line up our
Yeah,
mouths.
so the picture is going. Gup, 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 gup.
No, I just thought it was funny. So that I think it was a good episode. I go ahead.
I thought we ended it fairly fast after that because we were like, the cameras died. Let's finish the story, and then we wanted to do a summary statement of everything and then close it out.
I'm pretty certain it's easily 10 minutes.
Did
but
we jump into something new?
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
you're like, you finish the story, and the story takes maybe 2 to 5 minutes. And then after that, you talk about poker. I think you revisit chess again. Then you talk about poker. Just because he said, you guys do the joke thing, and you're like, Aid tells a joke, and he spends easily 4 minutes not able to tell one. And in the middle of that,
Oh yeah.
you guys are like, he says, I'm what does he say? I'm dead or something like that. And you're just like, you joke, I'm dead. And he's like, it's from poker. And then Jude goes, so do you like poker? And then he's like, I actually do. And you start talking about, and I'm sitting here like, stop, finish this.
I'm really interested by poker and people who play
And
it.
then you're like, yeah, I just started playing poker recently. And he's like, yeah, I really like to watch it, but I like to play it too. And then he's talking about it. And then you guys are like, oh, we got to go back to this. And you're like, Aid, if you can't think of one, that's okay. And props to you for it, because he couldn't. And then you're like, I'll tell you one. You pick which one you like, and then we'll jump back in. We'll cut all that, and it'll look like you had one. So he's like, all right. And you go, how about this one? Brains. And he's like, no, that one's lame. And then you tell him one about, a ship at the bottom of the sea. And so then he's like, oh, I like that one. And you go, okay, we'll cut right in. Hey, everybody. So we have a tradition here, and you just kind of do that again. We have a tradition. If you're a guest, you have to tell us a joke. And he's like, oh, well, that's great, because I have one right here in my back pocket. So, in light of the recent Titan tragedy,
Just you guys are like, he ad-libbed the start,
which is great because it really, he is saying for so long before that, he's like, I don't really tell jokes.
Right.
My humor is just situational, which is just true of these generations. Like, he's like, it's just, commentary or whatever. And so his joke really is taking what joke you gave him and then saying something horrible.
Making it topical.
And then you guys are dying, and then he's like, what was that? Then you can tell it's the first time he's really like, oh, was that too far? And you guys are like, just go with the joke. And he's like, okay. So then he tells the joke. Well, no, then he reiterates. He goes, so in light of that tragedy,
Right.
and then tells the joke. It was funny. And then you guys wrap it up. But I thought about leaving all of that in. Like all of the him not being able to figure it out, all of that, and then you telling him a joke, just because it would be so much funnier to me if Aid did all that, expects you guys to cut that so it looks like he has
And
a
then
joke.
just leaves it
And
in
then
there.
the listener's just hearing him like for 4 minutes, like, I don't have one. The only reason I cut it is because there's a lot of dead air and because that's all content that's not going to have video. So I was just trying to get rid of as much of that as possible.
Right.
But
Now it's out there.
But that's
couple
my point.
episodes
I
ago.
want people to know that, like, he was set up with that. What's going on the screen? Whatever.
What is going on?
Whoa.
Discord is just going, oh, we lost internet. That's fine.
Oh,
don't
did
need
we lose internet?
Yeah, but we don't need internet for the Road Connect.
Oh, it's back.
No, it's asking us if we're having connection problems. It says connection problems? Tweet us. Well, don't have internet, so.
Yeah.
But I thought that was great. Aid seemed like he had a lot of fun.
Wait, they do
Great
know
guest.
that Twitter's no longer Twitter, right?
They don't.
You can't tweet anymore.
Discord must not know.
It's only X.
Well, think about all the people, like all the places where the phrase tweet or like using Twitter is integrated in
Or
places.
just having the bird symbol.
Yeah, all those places that has to be removed. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
it's-
gonna be so much money.
Literally-
Think of
Probably
all the
for
like
years
physical
we'll-
places, like literal.
Yeah, but
like,
that-
there's places
But
all
that's
over the
that's
place.
but
less
that is
weird
so
to me
much
because you
money
can't
in
erase.
changing little
Yeah.
things over the entire world.
And he
was
was
well,
just like-
I'm sure that there was a little bit more than just that, but
probably
The guy
barely.
that had X as his handle on Twitter got it just revoked, taken by.
he didn't even get it like purchased.
No, no. He was holding on to it. And he was like, I want money for this, and they were like, we also own the platform.
That's fair.
I think it's totally fair
Yeah,
in
you're
like
allowed.
our society. It's a little like, ooh,
We used to use XYZ for Christian influence. It was cigames.xyz.
yeah.
And then
What did
people
we-
like,
What did we move to?
And then we got
.net.
the
Oh, .net.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're
what's the-
using like .net and .com as like routing.
No, we couldn't use .com. That's why.
Oh,
we
I
have,
thought that we had
What?
.net that just rerouted.
XYZ.com is a
We
website
have-
for finding domain names that aren't taken.
No, we have .net. I was saying we don't have .com because somebody is holding ChristianInfluence.com for like $2,500 or something.
2,500 bit.
Yeah, so we don't want to buy.
What is there?
Or
Is
it's
it
like
nothing?
just below 2,000. What?
Is there nothing there?
No, it's somebody just owns the domain name. Like if you go to like see if it's available, whatever, it says like Michael so and so owns ChristianInfluence.com,
Michael.
and it's available for $2,000.
We got to get that.
Darn
Someday we
so-and-so.
probably will.
Michael.
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 But yeah, we don't need it that badly.
It's Mike.
It's Mike.
Mike just owns it.
It's Mikey Noodles. I'm gonna go look.
Mikey,
If it says Mike below,
really rascal.
you rascal.
It's for $2,000, or if you convert to Calvinism, it's completely
Or if you convert to Calvinism, it's free.
How would
Noodles.
how would he know that I ever wasn't?
he could measure your heart.
What if I'm predestined?
You were
to
already
be
predestined to
Arminian?
be Calvinist.
I'm predestined to be
to be
Arminian.
Arminian?
Oh yeah.
And so
my
I
bad.
can't help it. Like
So you can't help it.
which means I'm a Calvinist. If I believe I'm predestined to be
Well,
Arminian.
you're acting upon your Calvinist roots.
Actually, yeah, that would just be. I don't think any Arminian would say
no,
that. Like, yeah, but like that I'm predestined. You couldn't.
you couldn't. If you're Arminian, you can't believe that you're predestined.
That you're
for something.
predestined to be Armenian.
That's the whole point. So if you believe I'm predestined to be Armenian, it's just a cycle. It's just
I'm
a
trying to
circle.
like.
That instantly.
Is there a guy that in his heart, who's very cognitively
Yeah.
not correct, but in his heart is like, I am
Arminian.
a Calvinist.
Oh.
But I was predestined to be Arminian. That's
so sad.
And so he's like,
he just like he knows that
It's
he knows
true.
that Calvinism is true.
it's true,
but
and it's
he
by its
can't-
truth I am made Arminian.
But he can't help but believe Armenianism.
It's so sad. Like what a horrible
really
reality.
just
like
emotionally torn person.
you exist in these polarized theological ideas.
Yeah.
And you believe that they are polarized. You're not based like us, and those of us that just choose to be on the fence.
Choose
We
to be
were
on the fence.
predestined to choose to be on the fence.
Right.
No, we've talked about it before, but
Yeah.
there's just a healthy helping of both or whatever.
Yeah.
But
The end goal of both results in like you should want the same thing.
well, there's that. But I also believe that
Unless you were predestined not to.
I believe it can't be like the full-fledged either. Like the full-fledged tulip Calvinist, I don't think that makes sense. And even to say like it's fully fledged like free will, I don't think that makes sense entirely either. I think it really is that it is this thing that we are unable to entirely wrap our minds around because it's so incomprehensible to try and understand like entirely God's sovereignty and control, and also how he can allow us to
take from you.
choose.
You're kind of putting God and his entire plan in a box.
If you try and understand it entirely.
Yeah.
Which is probably true of most theological discussion. I think, yeah, it's a really safe thing to be like, in any theological discussion, like, even the things that are laid out pretty clearly. Well, I may be misinterpreting or misunderstanding this, right? And someday it will be made clear. But until that day, I know
For
what saves me.
non-essential
Until that
doctrine,
day,
yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, for non-essential things.
Be a
Until that
Calvinist.
day, I'm going to be... No, but like, for that non-essential stuff, like, I know what saves me. And it's not... What saves me isn't even my belief in the gospel. What saves me is Christ and Christ
Right.
alone. So,
Using my free will to choose to be a Calvinist.
that's what saves you?
Yeah.
The opposite
so
end.
yeah, the opposite. Is there an Arminian
I-
out there that's like...
I choose.
You
freely.
couldn't rationalize it because
No.
if your
No,
heart
you
you
couldn't.
believed you were free, like free will,
Because
then-
you were predestined to believe.
But I
it,
could
so it
see
doesn't
someone who like rationalizes.
matter. Who is.
I'm Arminian.
I'm Arminian. But I was predestined.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. I'm sorry to...
That
I'm
would
really
be
attracted
pretty
to
funny.
predestination. I like predestination a lot. I kind of
Oh, there's a part of me that's like, all about it. Yeah. Like, I mean, I've said this before
It's comforting.
too. Oh yeah. Well, so then like you take that. What is the element that's comforting about it? It's easily the like, oh, like I'm at peace having like no say, right, in this thing. Like, of course, like it's like when a father steps in and is like, hey, Buster, like, don't even worry about it. I'll carry you home because you're so sick and tired.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of like for a child, like you're trying and then your dad just steps in and picks you up, throws you over his shoulder and just carries you the rest of the way. You know, like it's that kind of.
It's crazy. The analogy I had was the absolute opposite of
You are
comfort
the father
and security.
But
But
why
like
you like it?
You are
Yeah.
the way you are.
Oh.
for security, but not like the.
Go
when I
with
say
your
comforting, the analogy for me, it feels like if predestination is like 100%, like we're saying, it's most likely nothing is 100%, but it's more like this freezing cold river that, you know, is like life is really hard.
Yeah.
But God has a river, and it's not easy, and it can be very uncomfortable at times. But if you lie in that river, you will follow it. The current will take you. There is no question towards it. But it's like freezing cold, and it's really uncomfortable, and it's hard at times, and
But
it's
you
not
brought
easy.
this on with
But like,
if you lie in this river.
So no, I think that
No,
analogy
God's
is
putting you into the
Levi,
river.
I'm not having a debate with you. I'm explaining an emotional analogy to
Yeah.
something.
No,
I'm sure even a Calvinist would like.
Right,
agree.
yeah.
I think the analogy works well. I'm just specifically talking about the peace that comes with this. Like, I am fully removing myself
Yeah.
from like, because if you exist as though I do, I find peace in the of course, like we should find peace in his sovereign will, right? And like I do find that, but I imagine that if that has to be part of the comforting part of Calvinism. But I guess I'm focusing on an element of it. You mean predestination as a whole, like all the decision, like each individual thing
Right.
being predestined.
Right,
So the
I guess
pathway.
the core is there in both, which is like,
Yeah.
you just.
So I was thinking about not this, but similar to this on the river to this morning when I was walking back. So when you're in the river fishing and everything like that, you have boulders, round boulders, and you trip on them, you slip, they slide, they move around. So you have to watch like where you're stepping, but you can't see because the torrent of water is going over.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you just have to have. So I have to have faith that I know there's gonna be a rock there or something for me to feel and find. But the moment that I look away from like my moment day to day, I look up, I lose track of where I'm at and I fall. Because that's just what happens.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to keep worrying about the day to day. And I think that kind of goes into we have our free choice in the day to day kind of an aspect of things. I can choose to take a step here. I can choose to take a step here. But I trust that the overarching plan of God's predestination of me going back home, back to my truck, is going to be taken care of. That I have predestined. There's already a path that I'm going to be taking. But I don't know what that path is right now because it depends on the next step of where I land my foot for me to make my next step. And then there's a point where the river starts getting really hard. So you're going through a shallow spot and it's easy through the day. And then it goes through a really heavy water space. And the water's trying to take me away. It's not letting my foot stand on a rock. The rocks are moving out from underneath me and it's a challenge. But I have a plan. I know I'm going to go there. I know I'm going to be going back. God has predestined that I'm going to go there, but I have my free choice of kind of a little bit of movement in it, but kind of an idea. I don't know.
No, that's a great analogy for the middle position, right?
Yeah.
The like.
Yeah.
I believe the middle.
The other thing with Calvinism, like there's no real difference for us
No.
because we have no idea what God has predestined to happen.
Yeah.
So we're still gonna be in the moment making the decisions. We've already been predestined as to which decisions we are going to be making and what the outcome will be and everything. But we have no idea what that is, so we still have to think and ponder and pray and then make those decisions.
No legitimate Calvinist is the straw man version, which is the one where we just say like, you know,
God's plan, you know.
Yeah, I just do nothing. You know, obviously no legitimate. You have to be still making decisions
unless you're predestined to make no decisions.
True, but like, wait, what?
There are individuals out there that have gone on the Calvinist side that actually won't give money to missionaries and won't give money because they believe that God will take care of them, and that if they're supposed to learn about Christ, that they will learn about Christ, and we don't actually need to send missionaries out.
Right.
And it's super weird. That's like a weird.
I'd ask them to
hyper-
consider the go out and make disciples message. Then
It's very confusing.
It's a
how they
small
believe
sect, and it's a small sect that have
Super-
taken too far. And
Yeah.
I think, same thing with Arminians.
We're getting to that 1%er.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think like you those people that have that opinion, I wonder if that opinion does just stem from this deep seated idea that like I don't want to get my hands dirty kind of thing. Like when you talk, I think we might have talked about this on the podcast before, but I know it came up in a Bible study that Matt was doing with like, oh crud, what are they called?
What are you looking for?
Obliterationists.
Abolitionists?
Abolition.
I always say
Obliterationists?
it gets the idea across.
Yeah, it
Every
does.
time I've said it, I'm like, I know it's wrong.
Obliterate.
Yeah, what is annihilationists? You said
Abolition.
Wait. Are you talking about
Abolitionists.
slavery or
No.
annihilationist? Annihilation.
Are you talking about nihilism?
No.
When there, hell is not a place of torment.
It is
Hell
utter destruction.
Utter destruction.
Annihilationism. Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with abolitionism, and I was like, the slave? What?
No, annihilationism, right?
Yeah, annihilationism.
So he was talking about like this idea of annihilationism and how there are denominations that really believe this, and the sad reality of annihilationism.
Please stand by.
The sad reality of annihilationism is really that it does remove. I think you were there for this, right? When he talked about, maybe not, but it does remove this element of responsibility on the believer, and when you remove that, it's like looking over and, or at least the let me rephrase it. His response to that was like this analogy, this little story where you're walking in the door to heaven and you look over across the way and you see these people that are walking into this door, and as they're reaching for the handle, behind it is just fire and torment and pain forever, and like choosing to say nothing and just walk in the door and be like, they could figure it out, like that's kind of annihilationism. Like that's where that comes from. Like, is this idea of I don't want to have to deal with it.
The responsibility of the consequences of hell.
Yes.
Right.
But like if we choose to believe that like, no, we see what is on the other side of that door and we see where people are going, that should compel us to take some responsibility.
Which is the eternal conscious suffering side.
Yeah.
Which is the...
Like if we, I should say, if we believe in hell being eternal conscious suffering,
Right.
like that should compel us to have some responsibility in the matter and be like, we should be yelling across the way and like, do not touch that door, like doing everything we can.
Wait, so annihilationism is just like you get obliterated, then you're
completely and utterly destroyed.
Yeah,
and then you're just gone.
That there is no existence unless it's a good existence.
That would be much.
Whoa, wait, what?
There is no existence unless it is eternal, heaven
Yes,
within.
the only
Unless there
existence after death
is good.
Is good.
Which
That's
is
rough because there's a lot of people that are just like totally fine and like welcoming to just a nothingness.
Right.
Yeah,
But
well,
then
no,
the
it is
argument,
kind of nihilist.
The
Like,
argument for annihilationism is that there is no experience worse than to be outside the presence of God. To not be able to be in congregation with God. And the only way to not be in congregation with God is to not exist. And so the worst thing possible.
I've never heard it phrased that way.
That's the only argument I've ever heard for annihilationism.
But that would
or the biblical arguments that when it says hell will be cast into liquid fire and
I've also
everything will
heard-
be completely and utterly destroyed.
I've also heard for eternal conscious suffering too, not even necessarily in the way that people say like the fire and everything. Just saying like the worst way to exist is outside the presence of God. I've heard that as a thing, not for annihilism or annihilationism or whatever, like that you will exist outside the presence of God, but that won't mean that you no longer exist. But I guess that makes more sense.
That's just what I've, because eternal conscious suffering could be the same thing. There's no worse
'Cause,
fate
I mean,
than to
I
exist
guess, like-
outside congregation with God. And so eternal conscious suffering is just hell's closed from the inside sort of thing where you have nothing, you are nothing, but you exist, and you will never able to be in congregation with God, but you're like sentient. And so that's the weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's the eternal conscious, like, I'll never see his grace again.
Yeah.
Which is not leagues different from annihilationism. But typically, the two predominant beliefs are not annihilationism and eternal conscious suffering. Eternal conscious suffering is fire, sharp, cut,
Whatever it's gonna
bruise,
be,
break, eternal conscious
suffering.
Does God like making a place where his presence is not? Does that take away from his omnipresence? Or is that God pulling himself
the
away?
omnipresence of God is like
Are we starting to get into the can God make a square a circle?
no, not at all.
No,
not
like-
logical
we're not
possibility.
into that.
Omnibenevolence, omnipotence, omniscience, all frequently confirmed in the Bible.
Yeah.
Literal omnipresence, in the way that God, the being, is equally right here as he is right here, as he is in hell with people, as he is everywhere, is not super substantiated. And that's a very hot topic. But
Let us
the
know in
idea
comments
in the Bible that is just propagated on end is that God is aware, able to interact, but that he is physically like, because to say omnipresent, you have to say that there is actually a piece of them that is there. Then there is a point in space where a piece of this person is here, or else omnipresence is nothing.
Yeah.
Or he's the everything thing, which I don't think any of us would really get behind.
I have a book in my backpack right over there that has a lot of answers for what we're talking about, but I would have to search through it and find them. But it talks a lot about the omnis, and specifically omnipresence, and how it explains it really well with this flow chart. And I'm going to butcher it if I try, but and it's been a while since I read that chapter.
Which book is it?
It's called Maturing in Christ by H. Laverne Schaefer. It's a really heady book. It's one of those ones that Gaga gave me.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I don't remember what I was saying. No, but like the question, could God create X, or would God creating X in this instance a thing where he couldn't be present with people? Hell. If God created X, would it limit his power? The answer is always no. Because if he has the ability to create X, he has the ability to supervent X or supersede X.
Yeah.
So if X is a place where people can have no congregation with him, if God created it, God can then be in congregation with them if he'd like. Either way, it's this.
No, it's just a thought I had never had, and I was just like,
There's nothing God can do that by doing would limit his power.
No, yes,
No, that's
yes.
well, I've never thought of it in that way, because these sorts of questions come up, and I think it is in the same realm of the whole like, well, can God make a square that is a circle
Logical
thing?
impossibility, which I literally just yesterday was wrestling with. Like, I might just bite the bullet and be like, because there's no, I can't seem to see any way except that God is capable of logical impossibility.
Of course he is.
Of course he is.
Because we're working within the realm of our existence and our logical possibility.
He's outside our domain and our space.
Think about, like, I do, especially when we were going over Revelation at church, just how fortunate he was to be chosen.
And how I wonder if he would say he was fortunate.
Yeah, certainly not.
To see.
Well, no, maybe he would. I think a lot of the apostles are like, the suffering that we suffered is absolutely worth it to be chosen by God to be in his purpose and will and be used. And I think that is a great thing for us, right? We look at these individuals who were so grateful to serve God in their like poverty and pain and suffering. And then we are like, I mean, this is just an old thing to say, obvious thing to say, but like we're just like uncomfortable on a Tuesday because somebody called us a rude name, and we're like, God, I am your greatest warrior, and I am suffering.
God putting me through his hardest battles.
Yeah,
and
he's just
long
like,
line at the grocery
dude,
store.
it's literally just a long line at the grocery
Yeah.
store.
No, I've seen a lot that have to do with like people struggling with pornography.
Yeah.
And the meme is like, God, why did you give your greatest battle to your strongest, or God only gives his greatest battles to his strongest warriors. Why are you tempting me right now? Or like giving me this battle? And then God's just, and then it cuts over and he's just like, just go to bed earlier.
Yeah. Put your phone on the other side of the room.
Yeah. But no, that meme format is really funny to me.
Yeah.
The, like giving his
Strongest battles
or
to
his hardest battles to his strongest warriors.
Yeah.
But no, like we often do feel that way, and it's so ridiculous in comparison. So yeah, I would hope that he would feel like. So I do think about that often, like how cool it is, and I'm sure, especially now, that those men are so honored
Oh yeah.
to have been chosen. And I think that we have examples of some of them that absolutely were then, and well, they would have had to be. Like that's a huge point of contention. Like when people say whether or not that the biblical accounts are true. It's like you look at these men who were tortured to the point of death, and unfortunately some of them not, but like, and they were still seemingly like, I am honored to do this. And you don't see people who believe something that they know is a lie, right? And then they just go to the point of tortured until death and are still
Yes,
like, I'm
to the
absolutely
most
honored.
extreme points of suffering.
The people that will do that are just delusional.
Right.
So like then you have to prove that what they saw was not.
Lord Liar Ticker Lunar.
Yes, the whole Lord.
It's like-
Yeah, every time I hear Lord Liar Lunatic,
Yeah.
I think of Tom Cruise. Because in one episode you said, is Tom Cruise Lord or well? And then you were using the same logic, but you included Lord.
Is he either telling the truth, a liar, or a lunatic?
Yeah, but you had said the Lord Liar Lunatic, and we're like, well, he's certainly not
Lord.
Lord.
Certainly not
Telling
Lord.
me Tom Cruise jumping up on
Lord.
that couch. No, but it's such a good threefold way of looking at things, because like the Lord is, if you look at the Lord's life, he's either Lord Liatic or Lord Liatic.
Liatic or
Liatic or
Lure.
Lunar.
I've been saying
Liatic or
Lord
Lunar.
Liatic and Lunar.
Yeah, we know. He's
I
either
am-
moon, or he's Lord, or he's a
made of
lying
cheese.
tick. No.
But like, yeah, people who are willing to die for something
Yes.
are either, or go through extreme suffering, either believe it to its truest extent. So they must be convinced wholeheartedly of this truth, or they're insane. And so if they're insane, then you look at what they believe.
Yeah, and you
But
look at
everything these guys believed was self-sacrifice, continue the kingdom of heaven, which just has nothing but evidence upon evidence upon evidence with consistent like moral structure. So like there's no reason that this would attract.
But even if you
the-
want to believe that there was some sort of crazy hallucination that or something that caused them to be crazy,
Right.
like you're saying, these things aren't crazy things, but even if you want to believe that somehow miraculously, they believe these things because of their craziness, you also look at just this sheer number of people, right,
Yeah.
that we have accounts from to go beyond that.
Which is also crazy. And so if we were wrong and all of this turned out to be a mass, hysteria, it is the most mathematically improbable cause of mass hysteria and execution of it. So it's a miracle. in
So it's a
and of
miracle.
itself. I mean,
Exactly.
it's mathematical miracle.
Yeah. God is incredible. Like
It's
all of
hard
our-
to look at God and not see miracles. It's hard to look at anything he's done and not see absolute sovereignty.
It's crazy.
absolute sovereignty.
Absolute sovereignty, absolute plan.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it is so awesome, to be allowed to exist within and observe God's incredible creation and plan, right? Like I can't fathom anything greater, and I'm beyond honored to be included. Because, like Matt has been saying at church lately, he doesn't need us, but he wants us.
Right.
And just,
That cuts.
I'm the worst, like,
Yeah, we are the worst.
And
Yeah.
who am I to be wanted by someone so incredible?
And we heard him. Well, I mean, and we break his heart.
We break his heart. We hurt him. We technically hung him on a tree
Yeah.
from our transgressions and sins.
Yeah.
We caused him to die so that we could be saved.
And the moment that we forget that, the moment we forget how much he doesn't need us, but he wants us, And that should compel us to remember the cross, right? I loved what Matt was saying at church about communion, how people are so often forgetting things, right? And it's crazy. Like the older you get, the more you realize that you forget stuff. And it just makes so much sense that Christ was like, here is a way for you to remember.
Yeah.
He knows that we forget things. And so here is something, and we turn communion into a ritual or like just a tradition. But we've talked about tradition on this show before and the importance of like, what does tradition serve? And I don't even think we talked about communion when we were talking about that. But dude, communion is like the greatest example of tradition being used for what tradition is for. And it's like, because we talked about Christmas and how just even some of the more innocuous or like fun traditions should serve a purpose. And like, that's the point of tradition, to point to something so that you remember something and you remember the importance behind something. But dude, communion is like the single greatest example ever.
Right.
It's God himself being like, here is something that you must remember. And
tradition isn't good because you do it. Tradition is something you use. So weak traditions are worthless. Traditions have to be worked on, and they have to be strong, and they have to be capable of reminding you intense and valuable
tradition
meaning.
itself, it should be a tool.
It's a tool that you use and you work out, and communion should be one that is strong and that reminds you, like it did at church, that like the reason we drink this is because it has such a pertinent truth to it, that this is Jesus' blood, God's blood that was spilled, and flesh that was broken.
I've just never considered, I mean, of course I've considered like, oh, well, God himself established communion. Like there's significance to that. But like, I just love when it is made aware, or I realize, or people point out, or God makes me aware of a lot of like the simple, like, oh, duh kind of things about the truths of God. Like, you know, I've talked about it before, but just when you realize like, oh yeah, often, you know, and this comes with experiential trial, but often it's like, of course this is the better way to do things. I was just ignoring that I wanted this, you know, I wanted the instant pleasure or gratification of sin now, but of course the way God has intended, and that thing that I thought is just a gatekeeping rule is the better way of going about it, you know, like, but also like that's one of those simple but profound things that when you kind of actually realize or believe it, it's like, yeah, you know, and that does come with that experiential trial. Like people can tell you, I've talked about this a little bit in the couple groups I'm in, so I know some of you have already heard it, but like, you know, reading through the Old Testament, and we're going through Daniel in that men's group right now that I'm with Carson and Byron, and the life of Nebuchadnezzar is really interesting because I think that's basically what it points to. Like you look at his life, and it's kind of a prime example of this phenomenon, how we need more often than not, and it's unfortunate, we're so often told like, hey, I've already learned this, let me just give you the cheat codes. And or just like, hey, God is like, here's the truth. And we're like, oh yeah, wow, God, you are amazing. That is the truth. Go right back to sin and crap. And until we're at the end of ourselves, and God just lets us sometimes fester in it and realize we need him and hurt. And like, that's that experiential trial. Then we go back on it, and then we're like, wow, I really understand now, you know? And Nebuchadnezzar's life is just that. Like you look at all these times that he even was like, he was presented the magnificent glory of God, and like you cannot deny not only God's existence, like his sovereignty, and the fact that he is above all gods. And Nebuchadnezzar's like, your God is above all gods. Incredible. Now I'm going to go back to this garbage, you know. Oh, let's build another idol. But then when you stop reading about Nebuchadnezzar, it's right after he is allowed. He's told again, like, dude, believe in me, believe I am Lord, like believe in my control, or this will happen. Like you will have the mind of an animal, like all of that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, you are Lord. And then it says a year later or whatever, 12 months later, Nebuchadnezzar was like, man, I am Lord. This is great. And then a voice from heaven is like, I told you. And they threw him out. Exactly what he was afraid is happening, and what he was told would happen happens. And then when you stop reading about him, it is after that experiential trial and suffering. No longer was it warnings. No longer was it hey man, here's the glory of God. It was, okay, you're going to suffer some of the discipline of God. And then he went, my mind returned to me, my sanity returned to me.
Yeah.
And I said, Nebuchadnezzar says, you control everything. And then we don't read about him anymore. And it's just, I think that is such a beautiful example of like how that's when we get it, is when it's like, we're told. And often we're like, oh no, it does make sense. We're maybe not even lying, but it doesn't sit. And it's not until we need that like fire to cement it in us.
Yeah.
And
that darn human part of us.
yeah. And that's what I think is so cool about Nebuchadnezzar is like, I think that's like all he serves. There's the obvious stuff. They're like, well, don't be prideful. Don't be bad. Don't be a bad guy.
It's a good example of God's grace before,
Yes. But like, I think his life, I'd reckon to say like, it almost seemingly is like, that's why he's there for us to read about, is to see that phenomenon.
Well, I think it certainly says something to why it stops talking about him right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, what's the implication there? Then like maybe the rest of his life.
like, does it need to,
Do we need
live
more?
happily ever after? No.
No, because maybe from that point on, he did believe that.
Yeah,
And I think that he more than likely did.
probably.
It's just
I
fascinating.
certainly hope so.
Dude, read the Old Testament. Those of you listening.
If you
I
get-
know as a believer who is my age, like we don't do it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, not all of us. Jude's never read the New. He only reads the Old. But
I'm Jewish.
he's Judish. But he's
Judish.
Judish. But it's just so full of.
No, yeah, I
It's
just
God's word,
I've been going through Joshua.
There's a reason there's two parts.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we don't carry around the New Testament. I mean, a lot of people do actually. But there's a reason like the Bible is the Old and New. There's reason for both. And there's so much value in both.
Is that Frank?
No, it wasn't.
No,
It wasn't
no,
me.
it
That was me. I bumped the lamp.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's always so hard to know
It's got
when it's
faulty
Frank
wiring.
or when it's you bumping the lamp.
I think it's been me for a bit.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah, maybe.
Who's been writing us those notes then?
What notes?
What?
Oh, no.
What
that's
no- what
weird.
notes-
I don't
what
know
notes are you
what
talking
you're
about?
talking about.
Weird. What were you saying, Levi?
Do you just say that sometimes when Levi wasn't saying anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but that's not what this was.
It
It did seem like what he was saying about Joshua, you interrupted him, so I wanted to see if he
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was I right or was I wrong?
I mean, there was a point to me bringing up Joshua, and it's escaped me.
Oh, it ran away.
And this-
Jude calls me a peanut gallery earlier in the episode, and then he interrupts Levi when Levi's saying something, I'm sure, magnificent.
I thought Byron's fishing was magnificent.
Oh, well, no, it was, but I just mean Levi's talking about
Again, Jerry,
his
just putting
experience with
Byron
the Bible.
down.
Okay, you set me up.
Okay, just I'm seeing this episode as just dig on Byron today.
We haven't said anything negative about you.
Uh-huh. It's not what you say; it's what you do.
That's true.
It is.
No, that's true.
Next
no,
episode,
like
Byron will have the
just
speaker
reading.
Huh?
Next episode, you'll be in the speaker seat.
What?
We want to honor you.
Yeah.
Now I just feel like you're like buttering me up to.
That's
slaughter
exactly what
me.
we are, buttering you up, and you will be
Yeah,
buttered.
and you will be
You will be buttered.
Next episode,
just covered in butter.
Hi, I'm garlic bread today.
Hi guys, I'm Garlic Bread, and this is Jude.
It's
Just
gonna
a nice
It's gonna be
sheen.
like 120 degrees, and he's just gonna be cooking in butter.
Speaking of 120 degrees, it's getting warm in here, and we're at about an hour and
Yeah.
20.
No, but I was just gonna say that there's a lot of stuff like in that can be applied to our lives today.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to read those old stories because it doesn't apply to us anymore. Just the New Testament applies to us. But like, there's a lot of examples that are really, they're really
Yeah,
good.
they're there
When
and they're
it-
not in the Old Testament, right? Like, we have them there and not in the Old Testament too.
What?
Like, there's a
Not
reason
in
they're
the-
there,
And
some
not
of them
in the New Testament?
and some of them are specifically there.
Oh
is my
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Like,
you
oh,
can't
yeah.
find all you want to find in the old and the new.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
specific.
I mean,
to each.
yeah.
Without the old, the new doesn't make any sense. It does. The
And
new
without
makes
the,
sense.
and without the
but
new,
it
the
doesn't-
old doesn't have a conclusion.
Yes.
The new is just like the conclusion to a prophecy.
Yeah,
That if you
you-
didn't read the old, it's
doesn't-
like
it makes no
wow,
sense.
shoot.
But you have to have the old to give forth the prophecy.
Right.
For the new.
Or else it's just some guy going, and they said this was going to happen.
And you know, they said this a long time
you know,
ago. the ancient prophecy for.
It's like just watching the Disney Star Wars movies.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
somehow Palpatine has returned. Who?
Just kidding.
It's just like that.
I just wanted to make Levi cringe.
Dude, I
His hand is not like this.
so
Except
quickly.
I watched Andor. Andor, pretty fantastic.
Andor's cool.
It's incredibly fantastic.
All the Rogue One era stuff is cool.
Liberals hate it.
I am so sad that it got canceled for season 2, but
Yeah.
I'm happy that it was created, and I'm actually kind of happy that it didn't live long enough to see itself become a villain.
To be squandered.
To be squandered. Yeah.
Because I feel like that happens with everything. But
haven't seen
anyway,
it. Is
not
it
to go
boring
down
though? Is it boring?
No.
Okay.
No, like
It's not just like people
Dialogue.
talking.
No.
no. It's like it's a little bit slow, but then once the action starts happening, it's like
got Andy
it just
Serkis.
ramps up. Yeah, it's got Andy Serkis, dude. He is one
As
of
a
the
human.
best. As a not as
Non-
a.
But is there a
CGI.
scene where he like gets
He
down
does
and
walk
he's
on
like,
all fours like an ape.
you know that face he goes,
Oh gosh.
the Andy Serkis
The Andy Circus.
face?
No, but he's such a good character. But anyway,
I didn't know where Levi was. He's such a
And anyway,
No, I'll watch it someday when
Yeah.
when I'm retired and I have nothing to do.
you'll go back through and watch all the Star Wars that they've ever created.
never watched
Andor.
What's his name? Andy?
That's a
Or
different Disney movie.
And slash. What did he mean by? And or what? And or what?
Our audience is slowly is going like, oh.
have
why
you
am I
enjoyed
here?
yourself?
You blew up Andor. Andor what?
Dude, that was gonna be the big conclusion to the third season. And it's just Admiral. It's Darth Vader, just like choking him. Is just and what?
What? And then he just goes back and he's sitting alone in his bed like, and or what?
No, and then he's like,
Oh, it was his name
in his little pod.
Maybe I shouldn't have killed that guy.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
despite this funny little end bit, I think this was a solid episode.
No, yeah, it was pretty solid.
We got any finishing statements from the crew?
Oh, from us?
Yeah.
Read the Bible.
Yes.
Old and new.
Yes. I think we were all over the place a little bit, but
Yeah.
You know, if you read it, you're predestined to have read it,
God is in control.
and you made that choice to do so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said unless you have something.
No.
No? All right. Thank you guys for listening. We didn't mention, we haven't done this for a couple episodes. If you enjoy the show and you want more of this type of discussion, go to discord.gg/Christian influence. That's where Christian influence started. It's a whole community full of stuff. We have programs like prayer partners. Hopefully in the future we'll be doing things like accountability partners. We have Bible study, a lot of stuff you can get involved in. And if you just want to hang out with people and have a place to do so online, that's the perfect place for it. And then if you like this show and you like just the parts of this show that are just us being idiots, you'll love our D&D podcast.
You'll love it.
Because that has nothing to do with us discussing theology, but that one is a bunch of Christians playing D&D and seeking to glorify God even in the games that they play. So go check that one out. We've had a lot of people just show up to the Discord, especially lately, because they found that show and enjoyed it. And we might be one of, if not the only, advertising as Christian D&D podcast out there. So go check that out. And if you want more, probably from this episode and others, go Patreon.
Yeah.
Go Patreon.
Go Patreon.
Go
Patreon.com
Patreon.
/Christian Influence. You don't have to support us that way. Just listening is huge support. And if you want to support us beyond that, just share the show with somebody.
Like and subscribe.
You know the
Oh,
thing.
we
The
did
bing, bing, ring, ding, ling, ling.
What?
Ring
What?
No.
That was me
no.
ringing the bell.
In
Right.
the cart. In the
Don't
cart up
talk
there?
about. I
in the
hate,
cart up there.
I hate the bell,
The cart?
dude.
Yeah, we'll hide
I
it in the
hate the
cart
bell
up.
so much, and I hate that everybody brings it up every
All right.
single time.
We love you
It's
very
the
much.
worst thing in the world. All right. Roll the outro.
I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
That's a good one.